Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
And Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie, and I'm joined with my lovely co-hosts Amrita and Sujoy. Hey, Amrita. Hey, Sujoy.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
I'm absolutely caught up in the Monday blues. We're recording this on a Monday rather than our, usual Sundays. So
We really should avoid Monday recordings though. Like, I think everybody's energy is off. I'm half going crazy, and you guys have been busy already. Amrita's had already a full work day, she's in India. So, uski to chakki piecing ho gayi.
but also it's good that, we have something to say that we did this on a Monday. At least we caught up with our lovely Khandaan people.
At least we accomplished something on a Monday.
Yeah. Kuch bhi.
I'm seeing did you see that tweet going around, that fight on Khatron Ka Khiladi?
Yeah, I saw
Who
that.
is that? Who's that guy?
So I
Is
just
that
want
the
to
same guy as How Could She Slap?
I don't know, they all look the same, man.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
I just want to say that Pakistan makes better Asims than India does. That's what I'm going to say.
Is his name Asim?
Asim Riaz or something like that.
No.
Even India has to admit. I mean, this Asim gave you Khandaan. The other Asim gave you Barzakh, cake and churayas. This third one is giving you nonsense in a terrible English accent. I think Pakistan makes better Asims than India does. Let's talk about Barzakh a little bit.
Okay.
I think episode 4 is dropping tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I watched 2 episodes. I think both of you watched 1 episode.
Yeah.
We had been really waiting for Asim Abbasi's follow-up after Churels. It took a long time. We were worried that this might never release. And more than that, I think we were also just waiting for Fawad's return on, a serialized show, Sanam Saeed being back, episode 1, you guys watched it. Amrita, what were your thoughts on the first episode on what?
So this is very non-linear storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what's happening as of the first episode. I have very little, I understand that there's some sort of supernatural element to it, but that is about as far as I understand, because there's I guess the audience is following the story from Fawad's lens, and Fawad has no idea what's happening. He's I don't know if he's supposed to be a himbo character, but he has zero idea what's up, even though it's his dad. And so we have no idea what's up. We can sort of make a few educated guesses, but that's about as far as you can go, especially in the first episode. But it is absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to find out more. This is a kind of storytelling that takes its own time and then sets out the chess pieces, and then you take a little while to catch up to what the narrative is doing. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
What about you, Sujoy? Do you have the patience for Barzakh?
I have the patience for Barzakh, but I don't think I'm in the right mindset to watch it right now. I think it's a 6-episode series is what IMDb says. So I'll probably wait for all the episodes to drop so that I don't have to, deal with cliffhangers and everything. But having watched episode 1, it it takes a while for me as an audience to get engaged, but I'm just gasping at every single frame that is being shot and shown here. Like the visual splendor of this show is like turned up to 11, and to watch beautiful faces, Fawad Khan and Sana Saeed, grace the screen is such a delight. I'm not again totally in on the story yet, and I don't know what the story is, but there's the whole ancestral land, the tree, the painting that transforms, and then the dead lover, the recaps, the changing aspect ratios to show the recap and the flashbacks. All of that is on play, and I think it would require some sort of a right mindset for me to get into it. And I will be back in a few weeks, I guess, once all the episodes drop. Right now, I'm just happy that there is new Fawad content for us to watch.
Yeah. First of all, this show is the most beautiful thing I've seen in a while. Like, and it's funny because I was watching it, and it's just such an easy go-to, but I thought of Sanjay Leela Bhansali, to be honest, and how much I don't like that kind of pretty aesthetic, and how much I love this pretty aesthetic.
There is a difference between the two, because Bhansali, infamously insists on every single aspect of the frame to be in his control, so he shoots most of it in his set. Whereas here, there's a ton of outdoor location, like proper actual location shooting, so you sense the reality in the beauty. So you are not like transported out of your own control or out of your visual aesthetic into something that is completely real but also completely gorgeous.
And that's actually really interesting to me, that he, even from the beginning, from the very first scene, he is talking about the reality of nature and of natural things, but he is also building the story that is about the supernatural, or at least that is what I'm getting from it, So he's talking about this very real world where very real things happen, but then he's building the story that belongs in an otherworldly realm. And even in that scene where, I guess his brother comes to yell at him. I'm not exactly sure what their relationship is between the two of them, but I understood that he was some sort of brother. And he talks about how people from this realm cannot cross over to that realm, or so there's definitely some sort of magical, supernatural, ghostly stuff happening, but the emphasis is all about being present in this world and what it means to be a part of this world and a part of nature. So it's just a very interesting narrative device.
But I still also feel there's a lot, like Sanjay Leela Bhansali, to come on that point, it is very much in control of how he's blocking the scenes, how the camera is moving. Yeah. So there's such a simplicity to the beauty, where I feel the Sanjay Leela Bhansali aesthetic is just gaudy to me. It feels cheap by being so luscious, whereas here in the simplicity it looks so beautiful to me. But that's just a personal preference, that's just like every frame is a painting can definitely be said about Barzakh too, like it is a lot of times said about Sanjay Leela Bhansali, but it does really feel false to me, and artificial beauty, where here it feels really like amazing to look at, luscious. Then there is the mystery box element to the show, which I'll be honest, I'm the least interested in. Like figuring out this puzzle of who is what. I don't care, because I think since shows like, Game of Thrones, or, True Detective, or all of these shows where you're looking for every possible detail to figure out this puzzle, I think it takes away from the larger beauty, and you almost there's just inherently you want to figure it out quickly. That's just the way your brain works, right? Like, who is that person? Why is she in the car? Why is she not in the car? Like, did she appear? Was that a real person? Was that not a real person? And for me, it takes away a bit of the pleasure of everything else that the show is kind of giving us. I have watched 2 episodes, and I think within the second episode, a lot of the questions from the first episode already get answered, and they set up the questions that will probably get answered in the third episode. So I think it goes quite quickly, but it's just that internal patience that we need to maybe have as a viewer. Also, I saw on Twitter there's a few Fawad Khan Twitter fan accounts that are really analyzing every visual on the wall, in the book, in the tattoos, and and I read a few of them, but I'm like, I get it. Like, I get I don't find the symbolism to be that complicated, to be honest. And there's certain symbols that I don't get because it's just a frame of reference that, either the set designer or the director is using, and I'm fine with not getting it either. So I'm really enjoying the luscious visuals of it and the performances, and kind of also the themes of it, because the themes are definitely in line with Asim Abbasi's previous work of patriarchy, family, violence against women that were present in Cake, that were present in Churels, so a lot of those themes are definitely coming back, although they've not been fully developed yet. So I'm really fascinated by it, and it's just such a beautiful show. Like, just Fawad Khan and Sanam Saeed, like, what beautiful people are they? Like, it's just
Sanam Saeed, she is even more than Fawad, I think, in the first episode at least. There's an interesting physicality to her, which I have never seen in her work before. There's little things the very first time you see her, she's picking up this old man from the floor, and it clearly requires a certain amount of strength. And then later on, when she feels that he is being threatened, she physically puts her body in between him and the threat, or the perceived threat. And also everyone around her seems to be a little bit uneasy about her and who she is, which makes me think that she might be a supernatural being herself. There's something off about her. But it's gorgeous. I love it. And it's funny that you mention all the Fawad fans who are obsessing over every frame, because I think this is perhaps one of the very few Desi content pieces that allow the Desi stans to participate in what has become a modern rite of fandom, which is you basically break down a piece of content, frame by frame, and then you analyze it and you look for what the deeper meanings are, etc. I think that's why Dilse, for example, continues to have such a strong fan following, because it's one of those very few movies that allowed you to do that, where you had this rich symbolism, and you had deeper meanings and mystical meaning. And Barzakh, Asim Abbasi is really leaning into that kind of behavior. He retweets that kind of stuff. He calls them out. He encourages them. He tells them that he really enjoys his work being analyzed in that way. He's a huge cheerleader to that certain section of fans. So it's very cute to me to see. I haven't been following those threads because I feel they will tell me what to think and what to feel if I read them before I see the entire series. So I have just been sort of liking them and saving them or whatever, and waiting until all the episodes are out. But once all the episodes are out, I'm going to enjoy going through those threads and just sort of seeing what other people saw in it.
I think it's one of those shows that I do agree with what Sujoy is saying, that I think binging might be better than waiting every week. And unless you are one of those fans that wants to analyze every little bit. I also, the release schedule is quite interesting because they are dropping 2 episodes like every week, it feels, so they'll be done with it quite quickly. But I do think it's one of those shows that you can kind of come back to and then get a lot more out of it by the analysis of people afterwards. So I mean, I did watch episode 2 and I'm probably watching episode 3 tonight, and it's really good. I think but yeah, I agree with Sujoy what you're saying. I think if you have a few to bank, I don't think you need to wait for all 6 episodes because they are an hour long, and I do not think you can be there for 6 hours in this world. You know, you need a little bit of break. So I think if you have like 2 episodes banked, I think that's good to kind of get going again. So
I'd say 2 points here. I love the camera work. Obviously, the cinematography is gorgeous, as we said, the locations and everything, outdoors and indoors. But what was outstanding for me in episode 1 was the way that, you know, they did a oneer where they sort of switch back and forth from the real to the not so real world. So somebody is interacting with the painter lady, and then the camera pans and moves back, and there's like people who are clearly not of this world with that heavy stone, you know, tied to their backs, and they are supposedly the dead ancestors of that land. That was interesting.
I think we're done with Barzakh for this episode. I think we've seen 1 episode. You guys have seen 1 episode. I think we definitely want to come back to it when we've done all 6 episodes, series, and then but I think we're all intrigued with it, you know, and we're very happy that something quite different, quite out of the box, and very, very pretty is available to watch on YouTube for free. You know, that's the other thing. It's not behind like a paywall or like some app that we need to download and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. Sujoy, you saw a movie this week. What did you watch?
So I watched Bad News from Dharma, directed by our favorite Anand Tiwari from who played Ajit in Detective Byomkesh Bakshi. So he's a director now. I think it's his first movie. It has Tripti Dimri and Vicky Kaushal and Ammy Virk. And I haven't watched the spiritual prequel to this movie. That was Good News with what's it called?
Just those words alone, you're already giving this movie way too much respect, man.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched this, like, you know, this sperm universe, as you would call it, because that's what it is, right?
SPU.
Oh, dear. Yeah, there's a lot of pregnancy going on in this movie universe. But yeah, for what it is, it was a fun time to be had at the cinemas, really. I went with really super low expectations, and I went with, beautiful people dancing, and I got that. Obviously, it's trying to deal with a lot of issues and trying to sort of hit the same beats as Rocky or Rani in some ways, but it deals with more comedy than Rocky Rani. It really leans into the comedy of it. What's his face? Vicky Kaushal's name is Akhil Chadda Sabto Vadda. You know, and every time he introduces the background score just pumps into that, you know, Akhil Chadda Sabto Vadda, and he is kind of that Rocky Randhawa character, and it's he's fine, really. I really enjoyed him in this. Tripti Dimri is looking super hot, to be honest. And they completely exploited that. Like, she's being hired for something, and she is presented in the right way. I think they did justice to her screen presence, and Ammy Virk is fine. Yeah. And I don't know, there's one more thing that I want to address is that this is a Dharma movie, and it constantly, you know, goes meta. Like, it cannot go through 5 minutes without referencing other Dharma or Yashraj properties. So there's like constant, you know, throwbacks to Dil To Pagal Hai or like Kuch Kuch Hota Hai and all of that. And sure, we live in a world where, those are like easy nostalgia throwbacks that sort of engage audiences, and we sort of we see Telugu movies do that a lot as well. There's Chiranjeevi references, or whatever, Telugu megastar and all of those things. But I don't know if we live in a world where movies like this can at all be made without those references. So I guess like in 5 years, would we have any sort of original references from movies? That makes me sad. Like, we just watched Deadpool, right? And it's so much full of meta references. That movie cannot exist in its without referencing other properties. It kind of feels like that in a way, and I don't know if that is a good thing to have or a bad thing.
It's a bad thing, dude.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
I agree. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like, remember when Shahid Kapoor did a movie called, what was that, Dil Bole Haripa or something, and he actually leans into becoming Raj from DDLJ and all of that thing. It just feels like that movie is a inferior product just by including that scene. Like, it's saying that we are making doing a nod, but it's by the same Yash Raj people. Why not make something original? I guess movie references, we also get all like, oh, they did a Raj reference, we should be happy about it. And yeah, I don't know.
It's funny because like in the trailer, all we saw were like Vicky Kaushal references.
Yeah, that's there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the number one question I had was, has Vicky built up a corpus of work where he can like refer back to it in that way? Because like the 90s guys can,
Yes,
but
yes. So there is obviously a reference to Katrina Kaif and Personal Ho Jaunga. That's fine, but then there is a reference to Manmarzia in that, right? And truly, how many people watch Manmarzia to get that reference? Like,
Yeah.
no shade, but
It's
the
true.
fact is,
They're not
yeah.
part of the collective experience. I haven't seen Manmarzia either, like it's
Yeah.
not like Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam or something like that. I did want to ask you, like, I went to watch Twisters with my daughter, and I always look at ratings and things like that. This movie has a rating of 12A. And I was like, wait a minute, should I take her to this? But like, I know our conversations about the song and the themes, and I'm very liberal. I'm very okay with a lot of themes. But I was like, this probably shouldn't have a 12A, right? Or am I mistaken?
I mean, there's talk about extramarital sex. There's Suhagrat scenes. There's two really hot songs with Tripti Dimri, almost very translucent dresses. I don't know if that qualifies for a 12A rating or PG-13 rating. I don't know what's the reason behind that 12A rating. Is it because it deals with biological terms that are supposedly to be discussed with somebody, not somebody in their preteens, but with a guardian present? Probably that's why. I don't know.
It's interesting. Like, I think, like, because you mentioned Rocky and Rani, which also is very sensual in a lot of sequences, right? But the way the camera is gazing at the things that are happening is very objective in a way, And when you're discussing about Tripti, I'm not sure if that is something that I would want to watch with my daughter. You know what I mean? So it is interesting how, although we can all admit that she's very pretty, right, and presented in a beautiful manner, it doesn't mean that it's the same gaze that the camera has on a person, right? So
I'm still tripping, and I don't even know if this is true, but before the movie came out, people were comparing the songs in this film to Rocky or Rani and saying, oh, like Karan Johar should teach his directors how to shoot sensual scenes in a more tasteful manner. And then it turned out that Karan Johar directed those songs. And I'm like, Yeah, like I wouldn't take your daughter to see that movie simply because like I don't think like kids should go see sex comedies.
Yeah.
And I say that as somebody who was sort of like a free range child and grew up watching like pretty much anything I wanted without any supervision whatsoever. But having gone through that experience, I'm 100% sure that like kids shouldn't be watching sex comedies. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say this is a sex comedy because it's not like, musty or grand musty, but it obviously deals with, it doesn't necessarily have like double entendres on the drop of a hat. It's not that kind of a tacky sex comedy. It does have sex at the center of it. That's where the whole story spirals from. But yeah, that's my take on it.
it's a comedy about sex rather than a sex comedy.
Yeah, we would say that.
No, I decided not to go at the end of the day. I think also my thing was, there's not that many Bollywood releases, so I was like, I want to take her to something, but we decided to go to Twister instead, and I was so happy because we came out and it was like, she was like, Papa, look at that. It's like a woman, it's a girl, she's a scientist and she saves everybody.
Yeah.
And that's like a cool message, like from bloody Twisters to get, like, that, like, what message would I have come out of, like, coming out of Bad News? So sometimes parenting choices are literally luck. Making such a monumental choice with Twisters and it paying off,
Oh.
So yeah, Twister recommend to go with your daughter. Bad News not as much. But I think Bad News will be coming out on Prime or Hotstar, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll probably catch it then, So
yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot of releases at the moment. Before the recording, we were thinking, what should we talk about? What should we actually do in the next few weeks? And we don't know. There's nothing really interesting. And I've also gotten a lot of feedback from our Patreon. Sign up to Patreon for $1. People just don't like us to talk about nonsense new movies. They just rather have us talk about older movies that were actually quite good, or terrible, like both of them. So it's one or the other. So let's see. There were a few more news stories that came out. I think let's talk about the big one. And we hinted toward this a few weeks ago, but then I stopped, Sujoy, because I was like, let's not talk about it now until the news has been officially announced.
Yeah.
But Film Companion is shutting down, or has shut down technically. And I wanted to just kind of give talk a few minutes about that, because I think for all of us, Film Companion was kind of a very important outlet. And I think for Khandaan, we were also like, it's like these guys are actually doing it and they're making money out of what we want to do. So it was always kind of looking towards it. But clearly they weren't doing that much money either since they had to shut it down. So, yeah. I just wanted to
I think we shouldn't rejoice in that fact.
I'm not rejoicing. I'm not rejoicing at it shutting down. I'm just laughing in the tragedy that you cannot make money by talking smartly about movies in any way, shape, or form. And we talk about this a lot. We have millions of listeners in India. Only a handful sign up to Patreon for $1. Like a handful, like ginti ke, And they love our show. I'm 100% sure they love our show. And I'm also thankful for the people that sign up. Economically, it's very tight for everybody. So I understand everybody cannot contribute in the same way. But the fact of the matter is that churning out content, watching movies, editing, making these things, we're not even doing that much video. Like these guys were also organizing shoots and this and that. And round tables, like flying everybody down, all of that costs so much money. And it's not viable, right? Unless the only thing seems to be viable is just repurposing PR headlines, talking about gossips that is nonsense, or talking about box office numbers. That seems to be the only thing people are interested, or white people talking about Bollywood things. Like those are the four things that seems to really interest people. But people that, I feel we talk sometimes smartly about movies. There just seems to be no avenue to make that a business, and that is kind of sad. But yeah, Amrita, what are your thoughts on Film Companion shutting down?
First of all, like I really hope that all of those people, those very, very talented people, find other places for their bylines, because I would hate it if um those voices disappeared from, like, film review forever. um Secondly, and I just want to like also just give a shout out to Suchin and Sucharita, both of whom have been here on the show. Suchin actually came back a couple of times, and he's been a very good friend of the podcast. And I just want to give a little shout out to all of them. I am also completely disgusted by the number of people who are rejoicing in the end of Film Companion. These are people who have like a one-line agenda, and that is nepotism. And then they're just like, oh, like Anupama Chopra, is like a big nepo supporter, and therefore, like she now she's shutting it down. Like, good for her, good for all of us, blah blah blah. And I'm like, she has another job. Like, she's going to be the head of the Hollywood Reporter India. It's not like she's disappearing from the world of Bollywood reporting. So I don't really understand the pettiness that we have seen, except that this is very symptomatic of the times that we live in, and it's very sad. But yeah, like, Film
But I mean,
Companion, I think
who cares for facts, Amrita, these days?
I think like Film Companion really made films accessible to a larger section of the population than ever before, and in a way that was enjoyable. From their interviews to their reviews to the essays, their recaps, all of those things. And they were really good at also pushing narratives about movies and shows that the average Hindi film fan wouldn't have access to. Like the whole push for Malayalam cinema, for example, that would not have happened really in the way that it did if it
Yeah.
was not for Film Companion. The way that Telugu cinema has its moment in the sun right now, that would not have unfolded the way it has if it was not for Film Companion. Because the value in talking about cinema that is not about gossip, and it is not about, who wore what, where, when, blah, blah. The value in that is that you are creating an audience where none previously existed, and you're pushing the agenda of cinema, whether you like their perspective on it or not.
Can I also add, I think it also was a safe space for actors. And I think that's also, they're rich, they're famous, all of that, I get it. But they were at ease with Anupama Chopra, that they would not get cornered in some hit line, byline. And it still generated a lot of conversation, but they were safe. Deepika, Katrina opened up. Katrina opened up so many times, more with Anupama Chopra than she ever did in any reviews, right? Interviews. Shah Rukh felt so close with her because they had such a long relationship with them. And I thought that was just, you got to see something about these stars, and they were opening up a little bit more, which I honestly had no other place where that would really happen, And I think even if you can get good interviews, I feel they can also be very bro-ish, and I think Film Companion had none of that. And what you're saying about South Indian cinema, I also think especially with Suchin show, streaming with Suchin, they also almost validated streaming shows to a certain degree, where it was just all about, they're making money anyway, we can't track the numbers, we don't know what's a success or not. But because he was talking about the art of writing these shows and how they get commissions and the showrunners, it elevated then this from content to actually things that is art. And I think those were the two things that for me were really, really important with it. Sujoy?
I would say two things, right? I think during the lockdown, especially, that's when obviously a lot of the content or the online content consumption like skyrocketed for most of us, and probably that's like, I mean, Anupama Chopra has spoken about this. She wasn't as a consumer of South Indian cinema before the lockdown happened compared to post that. A lot of the movies started showing up on streaming, because then the accessibility also sort of opened up, right? A lot of us were watching a lot more Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam movies then. And because she was consuming so much more of that world, she got to talk about it. And through that, a lot of more of us became aware of content like that. I mean, sure, we were watching some, Rajnikant movies or movies that were made by Mani Ratnam or Shankar before that, but the whole world of Fahad Fasil, to me at least, opened up. Or the whole world of other Telugu movies opened up for me. And Film Companion definitely played a pivotal part in that. And like I think I've seen another interview of Anupama Chopra yesterday on the Humans of Bombay podcast, and she was talking about that Film Companion. I think they are not shutting down FC Studios, which is producing one of the
Masters, I think it's called Masters, right?
Yeah, the
About
Rajamouli documentary that's dropping on Netflix. So that sort of content wing is still going to be operating, even though she's moved to Hollywood Studios, Hollywood Reporter. So it'd be interesting how Film Companion, the YouTube channel, and its other sister channels like FC South and FC Local, how do they live on, and what happens to the archive media that's already available? One thing that I'd be quite sad to see is that Film Companion did this whole series on cinematographers. So they did with Anil Mehta, and I think with Sudeep Chatterjee as well. So I would have definitely loved to see one of Vinod Chopra's old collaborators, Vinod Pradhan, on that series. I don't know if Film Companion would go ahead and do another episode of Through the Lens that they did with these two cinematographers.
I think they're done. There's not going to be any new content anymore. I know that from a direct source. It's done. There's no new content coming anymore.
Yeah, but at least we got to see those two. Obviously, there's plenty of roundtables, plenty of film discussions that we've had over the years, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
We got a message from one of our listener, Beans, on Patreon that I wanted to read out. After this, I'll probably ask you for your favorite standout moments from Film Companion, just as a preparation. But Beans says, I'm really sad about Film Companion shutting down. I trusted their reviews, didn't always agree, but that's also fun. I like their interviews. They revisit old movies, different reviewers, and a special feature on certain subject areas, for example, where Karan Johar discussed golden era movies. Their videos were professional and well-made, interviews insightful, and the lovely Katrina Vicky interview tapes thing was so cute. I'm going to skip this part because it's a bit private. I watched films I probably wouldn't have been drawn to otherwise. I missed their review on the Friday that films come out. And this, most importantly, I like their liberal leaning, calling out films for anti-Muslim tropes and jingoism. I can't see any obvious contenders to plug the gap in terms of the breadth of output. And I think, that really summarized a lot of my feelings too, like I think they weren't caught up with a lot of the hype and the conversations that were going on online that can be very, very toxic. And I don't always agree with their takes. I didn't always agree with their reviews, but it was still something that I kind of looked forward to. And after I'd watched a movie, I would definitely go back, and it would be one of the maybe one or two only channels I would really look at. And I think after this, there's really not much I watch anymore in terms of reviews from anybody else. I mean, I watched Bharadwaj Rangan's interviews. I rarely watched his reviews. And otherwise, it's basically Sucharita. That's it, honestly. But yeah. Any standout moments for you guys that you thought, those were good interviews? And like, I know a few, like I feel the Shah Rukh Khan in Portugal when he was shooting for Jab Harry Met Sejal, that was really, really cool. I like that. I liked when Anupama Chopra was with Priyanka Chopra in New York. I really liked those interviews. And weirdly enough, I really enjoyed the Rohit Shetty interviews. One with Ajay Devgan, and then even recently he did one for his cop show, Police Squad or whatever it's called. And Shilpa Shetty was doing the Rohit Shetty walk, and I thought that was really cool. And beside all the roundtables and stuff like that, that's quite normal. Those were big things, but for me, those were really this like top of my head. Those are the kind of standout moments for me.
For me, the Dil Dhadakne Do interview stands out for me because everybody is having fun, and like Priyanka and Ranveer are totally in on mocking how Anil Kapoor exists, and like we are all in Anil Kapoor's universe. That's a fun interview. Every time Anupama Chopra interviewed Diljit Dosanjh, that has been such fun because he's such an earnest, good guy, and he just he is so humble. I really enjoy his interviews. I think the one interview where Deepika was there and can't remember the actress, and then the guy from Arjun Reddy was also there. The Actors Roundtable. I remember that causing a lot.
That was the first one. That was the first Actors Roundtable, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. But I think I've already mentioned this. The Anil Mehta Through the Lens cinematography video. I love that to bits.
Amrita?
I have a fondness for the episode that she did with Vidyut Jamwal. After Vidyut Jamwal had gone to like all around town saying that she hated him and she wouldn't give him the time of day because he wasn't a nepo and she only did like nepo stuff. And then he spent the entire interview just seething at her while she was trying to ask him questions. I don't think I've laughed as much at an interview like ever in my life.
Amrita, you're that Mary Kondo gif. I like mess. That's what you are. I like mess.
It's true. Like, Sujoy is there with his like very earnest. I like the cinematography interviews. I'm just the only things that I can remember are all the messy ones. Like when she had that big pan India meetup, and like everybody was there, and then Alia just passed out and was just like, Nepo this, Nepo that, Nepo this, Nepo that. And Deepika is just like, I am having an out of body moment.
Sujoy, I have to say, like, I think somebody has deleted that GIF from the internet because I've been looking for Alia with flaring nostrils saying Nepo, Nepo, Nepo for so many days. I think somebody's taken it off, and I think you need to remake it because that is GIF worthy.
Okay.
Because the nostrils, like she's so stressed out, she might like fly from stage, like like a Dumbo situation going on. If we're talking about messy moments,
Asim was like, when like Sujoy started talking, Asim was like, oh yes, I have like a Sharif one, and then I started talking, and Asim was like, well, if we are being true to ourselves.
I like the Salman Khan interviews, like they're also awesome because he does not give a shit at all, and like Anupama Chopra is like telling like she had a front row interview with him, and he was like, yeah, Hindi mein karte hain, and he touched her feet, and it was the most hilarious thing ever.
I'm curious why nobody has mentioned Sandeep Angareddy yet.
That wasn't a fun interview. Like the mess happened after the interview when he got in his feelings and he was just like, I wasn't adored enough when I went.
That was more of a colonoscopy than anything. You just had to you have to go through it. There's a lot of shit involved and it's painful and you don't want to talk about it too much, but yeah, it happened. That kind of.
The more I think about it, the more I'm like taken aback by that man's narcissism, because like Anupama loves and adores Shah Rukh, but she will like be like, like, I didn't like this movie that Shah Rukh made. And I'm like, if you think like Anupama would say that about like a man she adores and wrote a book about, Like, do you think you get a special pass? Like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, yeah, these are like the ones that I really enjoyed listening to her do interviews with women. Like, do you
I
remember
was
the
gonna
one
say
that
the one with the playback singers, right?
the
Is that the
playback
one?
singers, but then
Yep.
also like Kangana? Like, do you remember like one of the early, and Kangana's been like absolutely nasty and vile to her in the last few years, but she was the one who gave Kangana the first real platform to like express herself as an artist, and she was like
Also, she
super
had like also like
respectful.
one of those interviews with Irfan.
Yes.
Mhm.
Irfan Khan. I completely forgot about that ever happened.
Yeah.
But that was one of those tape cast things. I think like Vicky and Katrina also had. So yeah, she's been there a few times, and yeah, I mean, she's just a nasty person. She's gonna do nasty things, right? So
Not
uh,
Anupama, Kangana.
yeah, of course, Kangana. Yeah. But yeah. I
But
also
that
interviewed Anupama Chopra back in the day for Mami, and it didn't go well at all. So if you can find that interview on You Podcast, it's there. Why? I think our agendas were not like I was fanboying way too much, and she wanted to have a serious conversation, and I think the tone of the both things just didn't match together that well. But
I have listened to that audio, by the way, and it was perfectly fine. I think you always read in too much into it. Like, oh, Radhika Apte was totally falling apart in the interview. She hated me, but you watch the interview and you're like, both of them are really charming.
Yeah, but I fanboy Anupama Chopra so hard. Like I think she's so great. So maybe I was projecting a bit too much. But yeah, I did have a chance to interview her back in the day, so I was quite happy with that.
I think that was the year when, or the time when Prem Ratan Dhanpayo came out. Because I remember you asking, what after Mami, what do you cleanse your palate with? And Anupama was like, oh, Prem Ratan Dhanpayo is just around the corner, so she'll be watching that.
See, I think that encapsulates Anupama Chopra like anybody, like the best way.
Yeah.
She'll do Mami. She'll push all of this independent cinema, different voices, and then she'll like cleanse her palate with Prem Ratan Dhanpayo. So, yeah. But yeah, I think thank you for a decade of entertainment film companion. I don't think there's going to be anybody else except you. Except there's Khandaan, which you can support by signing up to Patreon, which is another way to do it. I got another message that I wanted to read out. Actually, I want to read out two, if that's okay with you guys. One is about Maya Meme Saab, which we reviewed last time. Sorry, let me just go back here because everything is freaking out today.
I'll be interested to see how Hollywood Reporter India now moves on with, or what Anupama Chopra does it with Hollywood Reporter.
They
India.
should take my knack for naming things and call it Bollywood Reporter. I've told you this guy already, right? So,
yeah.
So this is a message from Maria about Maya Meme Saab, which we reviewed last week. I'm so glad you did this movie. I've been waiting for a place to complain about it. Having never seen any of the more explicit cuts, but knowing about them through IMDb trivia, I was bummed, pun intended, that all streaming versions I could find through legitimate means are the chaste version that's on Netflix. I actually think the descent of Maya makes from blushing bride to blushing adulterer to enthusiastic sexual being gives her character some kind of arc, which is totally missing in this cut. Or maybe I also turned this movie into an open world game because it's so boring, and I love that joke. I wondered why Red Chillies didn't at least release a version that kept some of the intensity of the sexy scenes without showing you anything explicit. On the other hand, I guess it would be pretty awkward if you are Red Chillies editor to spend a week editing your boss's butt out of a 30-year-old movie. There was actually somebody else who wrote in. Sona who wrote in. No, was it? No, there was somebody who wrote in that they definitely remembered Shah Rukh's butt and the train sequence that you were mentioning.
That's in Patreon, I think.
That's what I'm thinking. It was in Patreon. But I'm trying. So there's definitely another cut that you have seen and you didn't dream of, and Shah Rukh's butt. But it's definitely not the one on Netflix, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that was one from Maya Memsab, and there was one more that I want to read. Sorry. This is from Irfan, and Irfan is a long time listener and a big fan of Khandaan. Hi, Sujoy, Amrita, and Sujoy. Hope you are all doing well, enjoying life. I recently had an injury to which I had been home, so like any person, my whole day goes with watching random interviews of celebs, watching and binge watching shows. I was not able to ask any questions for the last Q&As, but I had a few. Irfan, I hope you feel better from your injury, first of all. I hope it was nothing bad. His question is, what is a Bollywood song you know all the lyrics to or can sing it if your life depended on it? I think this is a Sujoy question.
Oh man.
Second question, currently Bollywood doesn't have a villain like Amrish Puri, Amjad Khan or Prakash Raj. Who do you think could take the throne or could play an amazing villain? Personally, I want to see Sunil Shetty or Amitabh take that role. Lastly, I would like to see you all review Kartoos, Madam X, or Pyar Ho Gaya, or The Killer with Imran Hashmi. Okay, let's go over these two. What is a Bollywood song that you can sing start to finish? Sujoy, do you know any?
There's so many. Like, I don't know if I can completely say that, with zero fail, I'll be able to. But once the music starts, it's probably going to come flying into me. Like, Ek Ladki Ko Dekha or Ye Kali Kali Aankhein. Name it and I'll be able to sing them. Even the Anu Malik rap part, Main mila tu mili, main mila duniya chale to chale. All of that. Papa Kehte Hain, for some reason, Dil Hai Chota Sa, because everybody used to sing it back in the day. Hamma Hamma, name it. And even like Mukala Mukabala, PK Mishra's funny Jurassic Park lyrics, I'll be able to sing them all.
Amrita,
a lot of 90s stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Amrita, any songs that you would remember?
I mean, mine are like very old songs, like there's the songs from Guide, for example, or like, like it tends to be like Raj Kapoor songs or things like or Talat Mahmood songs, like, because these were the songs that I went to sleep listening to. Like my parents were like, instead of lullabies, they used to just put on like cassettes from like Talat Mahmood and Lata Mangeshkar, or the Mangeshkar sisters actually, and then like I just went to sleep listening to them. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, right? When you reach a certain age and your brain stops memorizing songs after that point. I think it's 29 or 20 or something like that. There's a specific age, and you believe that the music just before that era is the best music, and your brain can't even comprehend new music after that. There's like some scientific truth to that. So I think a lot of my songs that I can sing start to finish is like the Salman SP Bala songs, I know them back
but
to front.
Also O Jane Jana.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, with the workout routine and the dance moves, that one. But yeah, all the SP Bala songs I know pretty much, and the things that I would not even remember. Like we've had this on the show that we've watched a movie, the song starts playing, and I know all of the lyrics, and I didn't even remember it. Right?
Yeah,
Love and stuff like that. I know all of those songs, 100%.
Also, like realizing, this song is from this movie, because we know the song, but we didn't know the movie.
It happened just recently with the Ravina Salman film that we were watching,
Patthar Ke Phool.
Patthar Ke Phool. And then you had like that Kabhi Lincoln Road thing. Like we absolutely did not remember that song was in that movie, and then like we suddenly saw it and we were just like, oh yeah, we know the lyrics to all of this.
Yeah, and there's also a certain era of that same era, I would say, of Pakistani pop songs that I know start to finish, and I don't even remember the bands that sang the songs. I just know the songs. There's one Doctor or Billa, Purani Meri Car Hai. Do you know that song?
No.
Start to finish. Know the whole thing. I don't know why. Check it out. It is a really I'll add it to the show notes. This is a good song. And there's like a really whiny song, 2 whiny songs that I know. I actually know a lot of whiny songs. Maybe I was going through something at that time. But there's like a pop song, Pakistani pop song, and it's called Dekhte Le Gayi Mera Dil. And it's like No, though at that era of Pakistani songs were so cheap because it was literally some young guy like with a
Mm.
VHS camera going to some, you know, abandoned place and then dancing, and they would have like 3 background dancers with a bandana on their head and like black shirts doing like terrible, you know, moves. And I'll try to find that. And Vital Signs, like Etibar, I know Etibar from Vital Signs back to front. Again, clearly I was going through some things and I don't remember what I was going through, but I know a lot of those songs too. So those are my kind of like pre-Junoon, just before Junoon got big, but
Mhm.
after Vital Signs broke up. That's my era of Pakistani songs. And yeah, a lot of the SP Wala. What do you think of the villain question that he asked? Any villains that you think, any actor that could take on Amrish Puri? I think one of the things, Irfan, I don't think they make those kind of movies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the problem. So
There
if
is
they
no Kader
make-
Khan,
yeah, they
basically.
don't make that kind of movie, so they don't need that kind of villain necessarily, right? But
That level of bombast just wouldn't work in a modern day film.
Yeah.
Like what we have today is like stuff like Gangs of Wasseypur, you know, like that sort of like realistic but niche kind of villain sort of a thing. Like Raghav Juyal in Kill did like an amazing job as a villain. Like he was like really, really good, but he wasn't menacing in the way that, you know, say an Amrish Puri or anything
Yeah.
would have been.
and Nawazuddin has tried that, like in movies like Kick and stuff like that, where he's gone
Yeah.
very big, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's worked every time, unfortunately, you know.
Also, like Amrish Puri had a physicality to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not just the Kader Khan dialogue, but the eyes, the
Yeah.
bald head, and the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all those 3 factors existing in one actor, I don't think even Sunil Shetty has that.
Yeah.
Like once he starts speaking, I'll just start laughing.
I know. Like, I was thinking about that too, because we've seen him do the villain, like be it Dhadkan or be it Main Hoon Na, and it's never really worked for me, to be
No.
honest. Like he doesn't have that villainy quality for me. It was funny. I was thinking about this question while I was watching the fourth chapter of the Roundup yesterday. I had to quit because the subtitles were so bad I couldn't figure out what they were trying to say. But that movie does something, you know, one they go to Korea, then they go to Hong Kong, and the last one I think they're in the Philippines, right? I was
Yeah.
thinking if they're doing all Asia, they could come to India too, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if that movie is then set in India, who would be then the villain? And I was thinking Sunil Shetty, maybe, but imagine if it was Salman Khan.
I was about to say Akshay.
Yeah, but dude, you know,
Yeah.
Don Lee's punches and Salman's punches, man.
Maza aayega.
It would be so good, man. It would be so good.
But I don't think Salman would agree to playing a villain.
Yeah, he wouldn't, but it would be a good fight, though. It would be a really good
He's
fight.
never done that, right? Like Salman's never played the villain.
No, he hasn't. Like, no, I don't think. I mean, Tere Naam, I guess, you know, like kind of the villain there. But like, I was also just watching the Roundup, and Don Lee and his punches. I was like, sorry, Amrita, I'm going a bit actiony, but like he has this combo where he punches, and then he punches men in the hip really hard, and they just fly away because they've been punched in it. And I was like, who punches the hip, man? Like, this is insane. Such a cool move, man. Salman should do this. Like, this is the kind of action we need, man. It's so simple, but we just don't have it, you know? We just have that like acrobatics Tiger Shroff, or now we have a bit of like that John Wick kind of thing that Kill is trying to do. Like, just like powerhouse punches, man. That's what we need in
But also, like with the Roundup movies, I just want to add one thing: they never do the speed ramping thing that
Yeah.
Rohit Shetty movies have done. Like post 300 and the Zack Snyder camera moves, you know, zoom in, zoom out, slow motion, then fast action, and all of that, because that really cheapens the quality of the action for me. And like with the Prabhudeva movies and with a lot of the Telugu action movies, that's been kind of the cheap trick that they do to cover for the the deficiency in the quality of the action, the choreography and the execution of the actors who are not necessarily action stars, but they have to play the one guy who can kick ass. And that's been the case with all the past Salman Khan action. And the Roundup movies don't do that. Or none of the Korean action movies do that. The camera work is like you can see the action in real time, punch, and the camera moves with the action, and you can see it so clear. And that's what makes the difference. That's what happened in Kill. That's what happens in John Wick. That's why we love these action movies, because
and it
the
used
punch,
to be that way. Like
Yeah.
if you go to Virgatti, for example, that was that kind of action.
Yeah.
That was that kind of action. Like it feels real. There's no
Yeah.
wire work, anything. Why can't just Rohit Shetty do this, right? He has the money, he has the skill.
and
he could do it.
Giving him the title of the action director of Bollywood, it feels so wrong.
Yeah.
But Rohit Shetty, if you are somehow listening to this, like, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. Make a kick-ass action movie without speed ramping or without jeeps flying.
On without wire work, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like we put
Or
your
do
team.
do wire work. I don't care, but make it look like people are not floating.
Yeah, but wire work works for accentuating the action, not to be all of the action, right?
Yeah.
You punch somebody, he flies against the wall. That's not it. You punch somebody and you pull his leg with the wire. That accentuates it,
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, Amrita, I just went full action for a moment there.
Me too.
You want to talk about Lag Ja Gale or like Lata Mangeshkar or something? Balance things out.
Oh wow.
One day I will talk to you about Chupke Chupke and the films of Rishikesh
Obi-Wan.
Mukherjee. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we did a good job at the Bollywood draft too. If you haven't checked that out, Manish invited us, and it might be one of the last times he invites us.
I mean, yeah, like if you invite us on and it's like an Amitabh Bachchan episode, we are gonna bring it. Sorry, but we absolutely are.
Well, I hope we brought it on this episode, and we'll be bringing it in for the next episode. Tune in. We don't know what we're going to be doing. We might do an older movie or something like that. I don't think anything interesting is coming out. Drop us an email. Drop us suggestions on what we can cover on newpodcasting@gmail.com. I'm not sure if it's going to be directly the Irfan suggestions that he suggested, but Irfan is a good listener, so we might come back on a few of those. But otherwise, sign up to Patreon. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Sujoy?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at 9e3k. You can also follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast. Check out our new reels and shorts on YouTube and Instagram. And you can also DM us with your suggestions, not just on email, but you can DM us on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast.
Yeah, if you can, do subscribe on YouTube. I think that would really be helpful for us because we are trying to create more content there. And we dropped an amazing essay Amrita did about Amitabh. And there's a few others that we're all working on. So that's going to be the place where we're going to be doing more of these video essays. And we'd love to have your support there. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening.
Khandaan